What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about Fortnite's zero build mode and how it has potential to get much better over time. This mode has gotten really good feedback from Fortnite players and drawn in players from other games who seem to really enjoy the mode. And I believe that it's just starting and that this version of the mode is probably the worst it ever will be. And that these items could potentially make the game mode so much better. If you guys do enjoy this video or find it helpful, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and comment down below which items you would like to see enter the zero build mode from Fortnite's past. Before we get into the items, just a quick shout out to today's sponsor on the video, and that is going to be the Coldest Water. They make these insulated water bottles that keep your water cold for I think up to 12 hours or even longer. Typically I stream like 4 hours or more, and this bottle holds an insane amount of water. I think it's like 32 ounces, and it stays cold for the entire stream. Whether I've streamed like 6+ hours, the water I put in there at the start of the stream is always still cold. So if you're someone who games a lot, it's important to stay hydrated, or even if you have other outdoor activities, this is a really good product for you. And one thing I really like about it is that there's no sort of condensation or anything like that on the water bottle. So you can keep the water in there for a long time and it's not going to leak out like you would see in a lot of other products. And like being someone who games, getting water on my hands every time I try to take a drink is really irritating. And that's one of my favorite things about the product. Check them out in the description down below for more information or to purchase one for yourself. So the first item we're actually going to talk about in today's video is going to be the Portafort. A lot of these items are going to be items from the past in Fortnite that didn't really fit with the game as the game evolved over time. And the Portafort, I think, is a perfect example of that. This is something that launched really early on in Fortnite. You threw it down and it made a little fort for you to defend. But as players learned how to build, this item just became more and more irrelevant as time went on, to the point where no one cared about it at all. And it was essentially just a wasted item that you got from your chest. And I think in the no builds mode, having something like the Portafort would be perfect. You could carry this item down and then throw it and generate some cover for yourself. And you would be able to use the forts in Fortnite essentially, but it wouldn't make the game all about building in the way that we saw with like the building mechanic. I think this would be like a really nice compromise. And this has been something I've seen with people talking about like pre-builds or like nerfed builds. And I feel like the Portafort would be like a perfect middle ground between having some ability to generate cover for ourselves to maybe counter some zones or counter some like really good positions and decrease some of the RNG, but not make the game all about building. I think it's the perfect middle ground, and I feel like we could even see future iterations like this. Like we had the Porta Fortress, that one was really busted, and it made the game lag a lot because of how many builds it created at once, and I feel like that would be kind of like too much for the zero build mode, having that amount of builds. But imagine something like the Portafort you throw, and it just makes like a ramp and a wall, and now you have some sort of cover. It'd be a little bit better than the cow catcher. You would have cover from multiple directions with this, and you could use it like how you use ramps and walls in a fight now, but it wouldn't make the game evolve into build fights. I think Portaforts like mainly, but also maybe some like experimental versions or some experimental items like that coming to the zero build mode could make the game mode so much better. And I think that most people would agree with that. Most people I've seen talk about this mode have said like, oh, it'd be great if Portaforts were added so we could kind of decrease some of the RNG that seems to be what most people have. Most people's problem when it comes to the zero build mode is sometimes like you just get a zone that's an open field and it's not really that fun to play. I think things like Portaforts would be really good for that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be the smoke grenades, or the shadow bombs, I think is what they were called, or the shadow grenades. There was smoke grenades in the game way back in the day where you just threw it and it generated a smoke cloud. This would be good for rotating, or maybe if you're in a zone where you don't have any cover, you could use the smoke to kind of cut it off and generate some like concealment for yourself. But also the shadow bombs I think would be quite good as a form of mobility. They've been in the game in the past and people really liked them. They were kind of OP at times because you could phase into people's builds with it, but that just wouldn't be a problem in this game mode because there's no builds. I think the shadow bombs would be a great form of mobility. It'd be a great thing if you get caught in a really bad situation, you can just get out of there. Because as it is now in the zero builds mode, if you get caught in a bad spot, you're probably just going to die. And a lot of the items that I have on this list is going to address that. Portaforts, you could use that to try to help yourself if you get caught in a bad spot. And I feel like the shadow bombs as well. That's like the biggest thing the mode is missing. Some form of like ability to get away from a fight, and then also some form of like ways to like counteract really open zones. So I think shadow bombs would be a good addition to the game, but if not, if people think those are too overpowered, the smoke bombs as well could also be useful in some situations. The next thing I'm going to talk about, I think it's going to be somewhat controversial. I could see some people really liking this or some people really disliking it. And that is going to be Boogie Bombs. These were in the game way back in the day. It might be one of the first items they ever added to the game post-launch, I think. Especially one of the first like goofy items that Fortnite ever had. And Boogie Bombs were good back in the day, but as time went on, people kind of started using them less and less because of how important building was and how most players got better at like shielding themselves from the Boogie Bomb. And I feel like in the zero build mode, not only would you be able to throw the Boogie Bomb at an opponent and then get shots on them where they can't shoot back, I feel like it would also be really good at checking bushes. And bush camping is like a pretty big like nuisance in the zero build mode. You'd be able to throw a Boogie Bomb in a bush, especially in game, and check it, and you would know like, okay, the Boogie Bomb didn't hit anybody. There's nobody in that bush. I feel like it'd be good for that. Boogie Bombs also knock people out of vehicles, which is really nice. Tanks, I think, are quite hard to deal with if you're in a situation where you don't have shockwaves and not being able to build to protect yourself. You're just kind of screwed. With a Boogie Bomb, you could chuck it at the person and get them out of the vehicle. And same goes with normal cars. I've seen some games where people just refuse to leave a normal car, and in an open zone, if it's not just a 1v1 between you and the car, if the car like drives at you and tries to run you over and just keeps doing that, the other players in the lobby are going to start shooting at you, and you can kind of like die and lose the game in ways that aren't necessarily your fault. And I feel like Boogie Bombs would also be good in a situation like that because you could Boogie Bomb the person out of a car, and then you don't necessarily have to deal with that anymore. Like I said, I think I could see this one being something where a lot of people really dislike it and don't want it in the game because it is kind of overpowered in some situations. But I feel like it also does help counteract some of the more annoying things in the zero build mode, and that's what I was trying to do with this list. The next thing is going to be Shield Bubble. This was in the game, I think, in like Season 9, and it was kind of just not needed in Fortnite because of how the game was. It just didn't really fit with the game. You would throw it down, and then you would have a Shield Bubble, and people couldn't shoot at you. But we kind of already had builds to do the same thing, so a lot of people didn't really want to carry an item for that. But in the zero build mode, if you get caught in a spot where you have no cover or you're getting shot from way too many directions, you could put this shield bubble down and then you're no longer getting shot. If your teammates get knocked and you have to revive them, you could put the shield bubble down and revive them and then heal. I think the shield bubble has a lot of uses in the zero build mode, even though in the past it was an item that didn't really fit for Fortnite. Like, I wouldn't want this in normal pubs, but I think in the zero build mode it would work quite well, and I feel like that one's kind of a shoo-in. I don't really see anybody having a problem with that one. I think that one just kind of fits perfectly. Maybe the radius needs to be adjusted, but the idea of having a shield bubble, especially for revives in this game mode, I think would be really nice, because if you're playing duos, trios, or squads and somebody in your team gets knocked, it can be really hard to get that revive without having any sort of builds. Even if you end up killing the person that knocks them, like, third-party teams are just like so easily able to shoot at you from any distance and really ruin your game. So I think the shield bubble would be really nice in the zero build mode. And then the final thing today we're going to talk about is going to be crash pads. These were in the game in Chapter 2. And essentially, it's kind of like a bounce pad combined with something that you just throw on the ground. You can use it to avoid fall damage, which is a problem in the zero build mode. If you get on top of a mountain or something and you're not able to build down, or on a roof and you're not able to build down, it could be kind of scuffed to get out of there. The crash pad would be good for that, but it would also be a good form of mobility if you want to push somebody, and it wouldn't be too overpowered because they could just shoot it and pop it and prevent you from using it. If you want to get out of a fight, it could be good for that. I feel like there's so many situations where the crash pad would be good, and those situations kind of overlap with the annoying aspects of zero build. That's like how most of these items are. And I feel like the main reason why crash pads were taken out of the game is because they were really good at countering builds. If somebody was trying to box up, you could just throw a crash pad at them and then get in their box and break all their builds. And without building in the game, that downside doesn't really exist. You see the same thing with the cow catchers. They're really annoying in normal pubs, and they got taken out of competitive because of how good they are at just destroying builds and making a like really random annoying fight. But in the zero build mode, there's no problem with them at all because it just serves as a piece of cover. So I feel like crash pads would kind of be the same way. You would get all of the positives and all of the good benefit of crash pads without any of like the kind of cheesy, annoying aspects that we had in the past with crash pads. So I think crash pads would be a really good item to return to the game. Essentially, what this mode needs is maybe some new forms of mobility or different forms of mobility. Right now we have shockwaves, and that's basically it. And then also some more forms of cover, because right now all we have is cow catchers, and that's basically it. And natural cover, obviously. So that's what this list was. New forms of cover, new ways to kind of maybe implement some forts or structures that wouldn't necessarily ruin the game mode and make it completely about building, like how we saw with normal Fortnite. and items to maybe counteract some of the more annoying aspects of the mode or the more random aspects of the mode. Let me know what you guys thought of this down in the comments below. Which items from Fortnite's past would you like to see return in the zero build mode? Because like I said at the start of the video, the mode itself is good, but there's a few problems with it, and I think adding a few of these items, especially the porta forts, would really get rid of those nuisances and make the game mode so much better. But I'm interested to see what you guys think down in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and if you want to follow me on Twitch, it will be linked down in the description below. Thanks for watching.